Pattaya City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
Hi everybody, my name is Robert Chadwick. I am with Global Mortgage Group and America Mortgages. We are a Singapore-based company, and we were kindly invited by your group and Thomas Carden to kind of talk about the options for mortgages globally. See if this is. So as a company, we were originally founded to be able to provide U.S. mortgage financing for foreign nationals and expats. It's the largest real estate market in the world, but arguably one of the most difficult if you're not earning your income in the U.S. or you're not living in the U.S. So the entire company was originally founded on that, but because we mainly were dealing with private banks, so we were a resource for open architecture private banks, we would go to these banks and they would say, this is fantastic, but can you do Australia? Can you do Canada? Can you do UK? Can you do Japan? Can you do Thailand, et cetera? So now we've expanded it to where we're able to offer mortgage loans for properties for investors or even people living in the country. The only real caveat is you're either not holding a passport for that country or you're not living in that country. Residency visas are absolutely fine. So if you were to talk about Thailand, it's not the best of the loan programs, but it is a loan program that is available. So who is eligible? Obviously Thai individuals. Anybody with a Thai residency card, so if you're on a long-term visa, it's possible. If you own a Thai company and you're a foreign director, you can also use that to obtain a mortgage. And it's also even available if you're truly a foreigner. So if you're a foreigner, you have no visa residence in Thailand, you're coming in and out, you can do this. There's a little bit of a catch to it. If you want to buy a property, you have to pay cash for it first, and then you can release the equity out almost immediately. If you already own property, you can release the equity as a normal mortgage, as with any of these other transactions. So the loan to value in Thailand is quite low. It's only at 50%. And the rate is based on the MLR plus 2.4%. So it comes up just a little under 10. So again, not the cheapest funding, but it's certainly funding that is available. And the loan periods range from 1 to 10 years. So the properties that are eligible, if you're looking to buy into a new development, that's perfectly fine. You just need to apply for the mortgage within 60 days of the transaction. If I know a lot of people, if they want to buy into a new development, they want to make sure that they can get approved prior to submitting the contract. So we can actually pre-approve you, but the actual process doesn't go into effect until 60 days before the closing. How they calculate this out, and there are other ways to do Thai loans, but this is a standard mortgage, is they basically are looking at 3 times the mortgage installment minus any existing payments that you may have. There are prepayment penalties on these loans, but they do expire after 3 years. So the traditional, or I guess the average fees for these transactions, if your loan is approved, the lender will take a 0.6% deposit of the loan amount. That is refundable if you choose to not close the transaction. If the lender chooses to not close the transaction, if you choose at the end that you don't want to do the transaction, then it's actually non-refundable. There's a lender fee of 1.25%, which is added into the loan, so there's no extra cash out of pocket. And then as a company, globally, we charge 2% on pretty much most of the transactions that we do. And then you have some minor other expenses, such as valuation fee and inspection. So one thing that is very common now, and we do quite a bit, again, sort of targeted towards private banks, but these are available certainly for everybody. We do a lot of asset-based lending or bridge lending, asset-backed it could be called. These are short-term loans, 1 to 2 years based on real estate. It's not meant to replace a bank loan, but it's meant to be able to get access to liquidity when it's needed. The key factors on these is it's extremely fast. So if you were to take the US, for example, or Singapore, which are our biggest markets, we can do a transaction in a week. So you contact us, we get a valuation of the property, and then within a week, we should be able to have funding closed on it. So we do a lot of, I don't know if there's anybody that's doing any development in here, but we do a lot of structured debt. So if you are wanting to do any development in Pattaya, there is a minimum loan size of 20 million, but we're able to do financing for larger structured construction projects, developments, et cetera. So probably most people would have stocks or shares. Again, this is because it's tied into the private banks. If the private banks, for whatever reason, aren't able to do it, we're a resource for them. So you can take out a loan against your shares. The good thing about this is there's no transfer of custody of the shares. You still actually own the shares. That just goes to a custodian while the loan is in place. The transactions, again, are extremely quick, and you're able to get liquidity in some cases within 24 hours after they verify the shares. Let me see. So the markets that the share financing covers is pretty much most Asia and then the rest of the world. Again, the only issue on this is there has to be liquidity in the stock. So if it's a proper traded stock, it really doesn't matter what exchange it is, but it needs to be a stock that's traded on a regular basis. Okay, so for the U.S. mortgage financing, sounded like there was a lot of U.S. Citizens here, so this may be of some interest. Whether you're retired or you're earning income in Thailand, there's a variety of ways to qualify. Again, when this company was originally started, the idea of being able to obtain a U.S. mortgage was actually quite challenging. So we've been able to create that, and right now we are the largest originator of U.S. mortgages outside of the U.S. On average, we do just under $1 billion a year in U.S. transactions. For all of our loans, even as a U.S. expat, I know many people have probably been abroad for many years, no U.S. credit is required. There's no AUM, meaning if there's any Europeans in here, and if you're used to getting a European mortgage, you have to fund a bank account that is applying for, or that is giving you the funding for the mortgage. This is not required in the US. Everything is dry funding. Foreign income is allowed. Also retirement income is allowed. Loan programs in all 50 states. If you're not a US citizen, or if you're a US expat that no longer has credit because you've been abroad for many years, we can get up to 75% financing. If you're a US expat, we can get up to 80% financing. Normally, once you submit your documents, you can get a loan approval within 72 hours. We issue you a letter, and then once you have that letter, it's good for 60 days. Closing times for an average US transaction is 30 to 45 days. And the easiest thing about this is you never have to go to the US. You can do all this in Thailand. You can open up the application, and you can sign the closing documents within Thailand. These are 30-year amortized regardless of age. So I don't know if everybody is a US citizen here, but if you're not, in most countries, the mortgages are based on a working age or some sort of retirement age. In the US, you cannot discriminate against anything, including age. So whether you're 19 or 99, you can still qualify for a 30-year or even a 40-year mortgage. Obviously, interest rates have increased, but I think most people in here would remember when interest rates were 12 to 15%. Right now, for a US citizen, they're around 7. For a non-US citizen, they're around 8. But because the US has such a vibrant secondary market, meaning most mortgages are sold on the secondary market in some sort of securities, they're able to be very creative in how they do structuring. So because when interest rates went up, they launched this loan program that was an interest servicing only. So basically it's a 40-year tenure. The first 10 years, it's a fixed rate. So whatever rate you get, that's a fixed rate. You're only servicing the interest for the 10-year period, so it makes the payment significantly cheaper. And then what the beauty of this is, once the loan converts after the 10-year period, there's no rate adjustment. Like you would expect it to adjust to the current rate. It will actually stay at the same rate that was originally approved, but now you're paying principal and interest. So you have a total 40-year tenure, again, regardless of age. We have loan programs that are based on common sense underwriting, which is meaning that if you have rental properties and you want to be able to take a mortgage on it, we go off of only the rental income of the property. And this is the way commercial mortgages are underwritten. And actually, this is the way residential property mortgages for rentals should be underwritten. So you won't have to provide any personal income documents. What we'll do is we'll go off of what the rental income of the property is, or the projected rental income of the property based on a third-party valuation, and we'll use that as the income. 97% of our loans that are submitted are approved. So if you talk to one of our loan officers, and they say, hey, okay, we should probably be able to do this, likely the loan will get approved. The only time that it really doesn't get approved if there's property issues, something wrong with the title, something wrong with the property. We have 24/7 service. No longer do you need to be up at 3 in the morning to talk to some guy in New York trying to explain why your address has 27 letters and it doesn't fit in the box. You speak to, I'm sure everybody has seen that. So you speak to a loan officer in your own country if you speak a variety of languages. So yeah, and we have 2 people that are based in Bangkok. Just a real quick outline of the loan programs that we talked about. This is the one that is the most popular, and this is the one that requires no income. It's treated as a true commercial transaction. So if you look at how somebody would buy a building is going to go off of cash flow. And that's actually how rental properties should be looked at as well. It's just common sense. So we're not going to ask you to provide your personal tax returns or your income documents. What we're going to do is we're going to calculate what that income is, and we're going to use that as the qualification. Again, no U.S. credit is required. The minimum loan amount for these is quite low, so $150,000. So if you're looking at a property that's worth $200,000, you would be able to qualify. So this is how it works. It's quite straightforward. If your gross rental income, say, is $2,400, your mortgage payments, taxes, and insurance, et cetera, is $2,400, the loan qualifies. And what we do is we use 100% of the rental income. Now, in the event that it doesn't reach that 70 or 75% financing that you need, it doesn't mean that the loan doesn't qualify. It just means that the loan to value will be less to be able to equal the 1-for-1. So this is the U.S. expat investor loan. So we try to make this, if you're a U.S. citizen, as if you walked directly into the bank and you were living and working in the U.S. You have the same rates, the same programs, the same qualifications. The only difference is you're living outside of the U.S. There's likely probably nobody is getting a W-2, but you're getting some sort of disbursement. This is not required. It's going to go just strictly off of the tax returns. Again, same rates, same programs. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can get up to 80%. We'd like to see that you have at least a 680 credit score. If you don't, then you would actually fall into the foreign national category. And how it works is it's based on a gross income. So you would take the gross income, whatever that may be, minus only your costs in the U.S., not your costs in Thailand, so it does not affect your debt to income ratio. And as long as it's below 47%, you should qualify. So that's basically it. So there's a scannable code there. If anybody wants to reach out to us, you just scan it and it should bring up our information. Our office is in Singapore, our main corporate office. We have offices in the U.S. and also in a variety of other countries. So any mortgages that you may have interest in, whether it's U.S., Thai, U.K., et cetera, feel free to reach out to us, and we can normally find some sort of solution for you. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, but certainly not as interesting as the tax one.
Yeah, so look, if I wanted to, say, buy a house here, I'd do it with the Thai company thing, right? So I could borrow money out of the U.S. To buy that property?
No, so for Thailand, there's two options. One is money out of Singapore or money out of Thailand. So it really just depends on which program you fit in. But for funding sources, in general, we try to use onshore funding. So if it's the U.S., we use U.S. onshore funding. If it's Thailand, we will try to use either Singapore or Thailand to be able to get it done.
So the money wouldn't be coming out of the U.S., it would be coming out of Singapore or Thailand?
Yes.
So you just deal with the banks in those two countries?
Yep. So it makes it very easy. Even if you're so if you get a U.S. mortgage, for example, we've been doing this for a long time, and we know exactly, hey, you need to set up, this transfer account. You need to, set up with these guys so you can lock in your rate over 12 months period. There's always ways to do it, and because this is all that we do, 100% of our clients are similar to you, we really have the expertise on that. So you're just gonna, we'll be able to kind of lay it out for you.
Is it better to talk to the Asia office versus the USA office?
Oh, absolutely. So the person that handles the mortgages for Thailand is based in Singapore.
Is there any early repayment penalties
For the U.S. or
for buying something here?
So here there's a 3-year prepayment penalty. I don't know exactly what the penalty is, but after 3 years it does drop off. But that's pretty much standard across mortgages globally, unless it's an owner-occupied property in the U.S.
Hi, could you do a specific case? Say I wanted to buy a condo for 7 million baht. What are the what do I have to prove I have, and how does that work out in terms of numbers?
So specifically, if you're trying to buy something for 7 million baht, you would be able to get a loan for, 3.5 million baht? So 50% loan to value. How you would qualify, you'd have to show your income here in Thailand, or if it's foreign income, that's fine. And then there would be a debt to income calculation based on that. So normally they want to see whatever the mortgage is that you have 3 times the income. That's sort of the standard. But we can also, in Thailand, we can do asset-based. So if you want to just buy a property and the rate isn't a consideration so much, it's just a matter of being able to close it and having access to maybe a larger loan to value. But normally the loan amount would have to be at least a million US. That's certainly possible as well here.
Do you work with asset-based qualification versus income-based qualification?
Yeah, so we can do both. But again, the asset-based loans aren't meant to be bank replacements. They're not meant to be long-term. They're 12 to 24 months. It's just meant to be able to, say, close a transaction quickly or to be able to access liquidity quickly. But absolutely, we can do that on a global scale. So. All right, I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That was tremendously clear. Thank you, and it's really interesting about how your company operates, etc. So, thank you, Robert, for coming and sharing that with us. I've taken your details. Okay.